Did Shaquille O'Neal carry Kobe Bryant in the NBA Finals? This is an argument people will use to say that Shaq carried Kobe to his first 3 championships, that Kobe was a sidekick, a Robin to a Batman scenario, for example. Is this entirely true? Well, let's look at it just from a analytical perspective, and let's just look at the overall picture to see if this plays in. I have some notes here, so I'll be looking at, but let's take a look. So in the 2001 NBA Finals, the 2000 Finals, Kobe is really young. And I have here, he averaged about 15.6 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, and 4.2 assists. So let's just round this up. He's giving you 16 points, 5 rebounds, and about 4 assists a game. Those are very mediocre numbers for Kobe Bryant. That's a good role player's numbers, okay? But let's take into perspective in Game 4 when Shaq fouled out, Kobe put up 28 points. So what this shows me is if Shaq was not the primary player on the floor because he was the centerpiece for the Lakers at that time. Remember, Shaq's in his prime. Kobe's still up and coming. He's not quite what he would become later. He's still giving you 28 points. So, those aren't really role player numbers. Role players don't normally drop 28 points. I mean, they can, but for a role player to give you 28 points in the NBA Finals in a crucial game is just not that common. So, again, he's giving you 28 points when he's the primary player on the floor when Shaq fouls out. And the Lakers end up winning that game. Ultimately, they win a championship. All right, so that's his first finals. Let's look at the second one. In the 2001 NBA Finals, Kobe averaged 24.6 points per game. So let's just say 25 points, 7.8 rebounds, so about 8 rebounds, and 5.8 assists, so 6 assists, give or take. So he's averaging about 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. All right? Those are not role player numbers. 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists a game, or to be more exact, 24.6 points, 7.8 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 25, 8, and 6 are not role player numbers. Those are all-star caliber numbers. You have to think Kobe's overall average in his NBA career was about 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. So if he's giving you about 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, he's giving you more than what he averaged for his career in many categories. So again, putting up about 25 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists are not role player numbers. Those are all-star Hall of Fame numbers in the NBA Finals. So to say that Shaq totally carried him, I mean, what role players do you know that are dropping 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists? And some people say, well, we never said Kobe was a role player, but they diminish his role as though he averaged, 15 points per game through all his finals with Shaq. His first year he did when he was young. But if you look at it, I mean, the next year he's averaging around 10 points more per game the following NBA season. That is a huge jump. Let's look at the 2002 finals. Kobe's averaging 26.8 points a game, so about 27 points. He's averaging around about 6 assists, and he's averaging around 6 rebounds. So, again, his averages are around 27 points, around 6 rebounds, and about 5 assists. So let's just say to average it, 27 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists a game. Again, what role players are giving you those type of numbers? And when we factor in, like I said before, Kobe's overall average in his career, he's putting up higher numbers here than his overall career average in total. Even if you take away his bad years, he's still putting up really good numbers. I mean, those, again, are not role player numbers. So the narrative I'm trying to show here is he contributed heavily. Without Kobe Bryant, I don't think those Laker teams are winning championships. Yes, Shaq was the dominant player with what he averaged was just insane if you look up his stats. But without a Kobe to deflect to, again, I don't think the Lakers are winning. And I can prove why I don't think they would win. So let's look at something here. When Shaq was in Orlando, he played with Penny Hardaway, who was hitting his peak. But, they did make it to the NBA Finals, and I know Shaq's playing days with them were not relatively long. But, Shaq has never won a championship without a dominant wing-type player, or gone far without a wing-type player. So let's look at it this way. With the Lakers, obviously, he wins with Kobe Bryant. With the Orlando Magic, he goes to the finals, but he has Penny Hardaway, who was no slouch. Penny Hardaway was great, okay, before the injuries. So he's playing again with that dominant type of 6'6", 6'7" ish player. You know, athletic, can play around the perimeter, can shoot the mid range, athletic. So again, he goes there when Penny Hardaway is at that level or getting to that level. And then obviously he goes to Miami and he's playing with a young Dwayne Wade, and they go to the NBA Finals and they beat the Dallas Mavericks, and Wade was putting up over 30 points a game, just insane numbers. But again, Shaq has always played with that dominant, you know, small, that shooting guard, small forwardish type player. But again, the point I'm trying to make is, let's look at it. Shaq plays with Kobe, he wins. He plays with Dwayne Wade, he wins. He plays with Penny Hardaway, they go to the NBA Finals. They just came across a better Houston Rockets team. But again, Shaq has never won without that type of a Penny Hardaway, Kobe, Dwayne Wade type player. He's never won without that on the highest level. And if Shaq was just so good, you have to remember, when he came to the Lakers, Shaq had already been to the NBA Finals. So if Shaq was just so good and so dominant, he should have came into the Lakers and just bulldozed them through and won a championship. But he doesn't win a championship till later on. And he wins, obviously the first year Kobe only averaged 15. But, you know, the next two seasons in the NBA Finals, Kobe's averaging, you know, 25 plus points around that per game in the NBA Finals. So Kobe was no slouch, he wasn't some 15-point per game scorer like he was that first year. And so obviously Shaq, that gives Shaq a huge advantage because, again, when he's being double teamed, he can kick it out to Kobe. When the closing game is coming on, you know, you're going to put the ball in Kobe's hands because he's a better shooter. And so again, I'm not saying Shaq wasn't the dominant player, but this narrative that Kobe was just kind of like a sidekick is kind of insane. It's like, well, sidekicks don't usually give you 25 plus points per game in an NBA Finals in that context. I'm not saying Shaq wasn't the best player. I'm just saying let's just recognize it for what it is. So here's some other interesting facts I got here. So in the 2009 Finals, Kobe's averaging about 32 points, about 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. So that was numbers were really high in points during that Finals. But here's what's really interesting. In the 2010 Finals, Kobe's averaging about 28.6 points a game, 29 points, 8 rebounds, and about 4 assists a game. Okay? If we look at the Finals of the 2009 and 2010, let's just do the math here. So 2009, he's averaging 32 points per game. So compared to, you know, his earlier Finals, you know, obviously his points are up, but the rebounds and the assists are relatively close to what they were. And if we look at the 2010 NBA Finals at about 29 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, again, his numbers are slightly up, but the numbers aren't drastic. So what I'm trying to say is it's not like, oh, he's averaging 34 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. They're relatively close to what his averages were in the 2001 and 2002 Finals. The numbers are not that drastically off. Obviously, other than 2009, where the points were up in 2010. But other than that, they're relatively close. The numbers are not, to me, are not like this huge drastic jump where, like when he was averaging 15 points per game in the NBA Finals in 2000, and then in 2001, he's averaging about 25. You know, a huge gap. You know, so again, 2001 NBA Finals, he's averaging about 25 points per game. In 2010 NBA Finals, he's averaging about 29 points a game. So it's only 4 points a game more. So the narrative I'm trying to show is even when he was the dominant player with Paul Gasol, his numbers were still relatively close to what they were with Shaq for 2 out of those 3 NBA Finals. They were not that drastically different, you know, relatively speaking, of course. Obviously, like I said, again, the points were up, but everything else was relatively close. The jump was not, you know, just so much. So that's the narrative I'm trying to show here, is he was good with Shaq, and he was also good with Paul Gasol. He really only had 1 year where you could say he was more of a role player-esque, and that was in his first NBA Finals when he was really young. And again, he still stepped up for Game 4 to put up 28 points when Shaq was fouled out. Now here's what's interesting. I have here the all-time NBA Finals leaders list. Now, it's kind of tricky when it comes to sports because numbers are so subjective sometimes because, for example, Kevin Durant is high up on the list, but compared to the amount of games Durant played versus Kobe in the NBA Finals is not the same. But let's just go through it. So Rick Barry leads all time with 36 points a game. Jordan was averaging around 34. Durant was averaging around 30. Shaq was averaging around 29. LeBron James is averaging around 29. Bob Pettit is averaging around 28. Hakeem Olajuwon's averaging around 27. Stephen Curry is averaging around 27. And Elgin Baylor is averaging around 26. So if we look at those numbers and say, okay, those are great. But again, if we look at the 2001 NBA Finals, Kobe's averaging around 25. So he's within striking distance of these guys averaging 26 and 27. If we look at the 2000 finals, 2002 NBA Finals, when he's averaging around 27, again, he's in that finals, he's averaging more than Elgin Baylor, and he's right up there around with Steph Curry and Hakeem Olajuwon in averages for that NBA Finals, and compared to what they averaged overall. So again, the narrative I'm just trying to simply show is Kobe contributed far more than people think. Now, to be fair to Kobe critics, Kobe was not an efficient player when it came to shooting. He had seasons where he was, and there'd be other times where his overall shooting percentage was not great. But at the end of the day, he did win 5 chips with his playing style, and he did win with Shaq, and then he ultimately won with Paul Gasol. So to be fair, Shaq has never won without a dominant wing type player, right? He's won with Kobe, went to the finals with Hardaway, and he won with Wade. But Kobe has never won either without a dominant big or a big presence. Obviously he won with Shaq, and when the Lakers got Paul Gasol, I'd say Paul Gasol was a top 5 power forward in the NBA of that time. You've got Duncan, you've got Garnett, you've got Gasol, maybe Chris Bosh was up there, Blake Griffin. But the point I'm trying to make is Gasol was, at worst, a top 10 power forward. Paul Gasol was no slouch, and he complemented Kobe really great. And that's the thing with sports, is sometimes we don't realize, even though there's numbers, there is an aspect to sports for those of us who played where team chemistry does greatly contribute. I remember when I used to play basketball, I had a friend, we would play, and I was not the best player in many aspects, but the way our playing styles would work, he would know how to screen for me, I would know like certain movements, things he was used to doing, and though those numbers won't show on a stat sheet, the chemistry for when I was dribbling, he knew when a defender was on me that I could not break through, he'd come set a screen. Those are the little things. So even though, yes, basketball is a numbers game, there's so many other little things that contribute. And this is why sometimes, people assemble great teams and they don't work, because on paper they look great, but team chemistry, how a player plays off of each other, all that greatly contributes. But let me know in the comment section below what you think about those who say Shaq carried Kobe for his first 3 NBA Finals in the comment section below. If you find this content fun, please go ahead, like, and subscribe. I'll see you all soon. Thank you.